into Mary Kay 17 years ago, I was an emotional mess. I would call my sales director constantly crying because of some personal emotional trauma in my life. Now, I'm not dismissing what I was going through. It was legit and it was real, but I definitely did not know how to cope. You see, when emotions are high, logic is low. And when logic is high, emotions are low. So my emotions were so high and I had no logic and I had no coping skills at the time. And so I would describe myself at the time as high self-confidence, but I had low self-worth. You see, self-worth has to do with how you view how valuable you are. And you see, there's a healthy balance. Like, there's some people who think way too highly of themselves, and those are narcissists. And on the other end, people who think too lowly of themselves, they have really low self-esteem. And this low self-esteem would show up in my personal life with things like not allowing myself to spend money on myself, because deep down inside, I didn't think I was worth it. I had a hard time standing up for myself to, not everyone, but to certain people, and I would thus allow them to take advantage of me. I would dismiss almost any success that I had. In fact, I graduated from college magna cum laude, and my inner critic would say, yeah, I'm not really that smart, I just try really hard. Have you ever had a $1,000 party, or gone on Target for the use of your first Mary Kay car, and then just said, well, that was just a fluke? Well, it would show up at my business debut. I couldn't believe people would actually come to support me or celebrate me. And so when I would call to coach them, I would say crazy things like, oh, you don't have to come. Or when I would be booking, I would say, oh, I'm sure you don't want to do this. You know, I really remember the very first time I actually sold a roller bag to someone. Now, let me stop and say this. When we talk about a narcissist, we can see how that's selfish. Like, that's an obvious selfish thing. But have you ever thought of someone with low self-esteem as also selfish? Like, it's almost equally selfish, because when you have such low self-esteem, you're so consumed with like me, all this mental garbage that you can't show up for the person in front of you. And so when this woman told me she wanted to buy a roll-up bag, my first response was not, oh, that's great, you're going to get a huge amount of product at a phenomenal price. That wasn't my response. My response was like, oh, you don't have to buy the bag, as if she's buying the bag to like help me out or something. To which she responded with a very powerful, I want the bag. I got a wake-up call then. But it would show up in my business. I would compare myself to other people with how fast they achieved something that I hadn't achieved yet. And so instead of being inspired by that and letting that be an inspiration to me, instead of asking, well, what's her most predominant thought, you know, or what is she thinking about? What is she listening to? What is she reading? My question would be, what's wrong with me? I'm trying so hard and she's just bebopping right to the top. Some of you have heard my bathroom stall story, but because of my early success in the business, which I dismissed, I was invited to a special class with NSD Shirley Hutton and all these up-and-coming NSDs. And when I walked through the doorway and I saw all the top brass and Mary Kay, and I thought, what am I doing here? And I spun around on my heels and I went and hid in the bathroom stall until like 1 minute before it started, just so I wouldn't have to talk to anyone. So can you see how all that mental garbage is really just so self-focused? I was asking all of the wrong questions. What am I doing wrong? Do I measure up? When I become a director, when I become a top sales director, will I fit in? Will they accept me? Do I deserve this? Is it okay to have this? Total self-absorption. You don't have to believe everything you think. And so I think about that and who I was then, and then all now seems like a total distant past. Like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I have none of those thoughts, absolutely none. It's not even a part of my equation. Like, it doesn't even cross my mind. And so how on earth did I overcome all that garbage and all those limiting beliefs? And I decided that I was going to invest in myself like a dog after a bone. And I decided that my inner mental game was going to match or be greater than the size of the goal. And so it took deciding that if I was going to have thoughts, then they were going to be positive ones and they were going to be based on truth. And so one of the things that I did my entire career is I created a habit of listening to Mary Kay audios constantly. When that app comes out, I mean, I want all of us downloading it the day that it's launched. I mean, anytime that I got in the car, I was listening to a Mary Kay audio. When I was, chopping up vegetables or getting ready in the morning or jogging, I was constantly listening to Mary Kay audios. Those audios, you guys, filled my cup with inspiration and belief. And I'll say that since I stepped into Mary Kay, I stepped out of the news and out of the news feed, being a continual voice of of fear and comparison and negativity, and it was replaced by one with numerous positive voices that said, you can do it. You see, these voices raised me in Mary Kay. And it doesn't matter if you've got access to so-and-so or not. I had hundreds of leaders who raised me in the business because I chose to saturate my mind with their voices. I have missed 17 years of regular news, and I don't think I've really missed a thing. Really, do you? My income has gone from a salary of $25,000 a year to a Mary Kay 1099 of commissions, prizes, and awards last year of over $280,000, okay? Linda Jubin would always say the difference between someone who makes $4,000 a month and $40,000 a month is the way they think, right? So I made sure I saturated myself with audios, and that's something that you can do too. The second thing I had to do is I had to equalize people in status. I started seeing people through the lens of how God sees them. See, God is no respecter of persons. And you know, at this point in my life, I've seen enough people driving Porsches who are so broke that they can't pay attention. So looks can be deceiving. I tell you, people are people. And Mary Kay Ash would always say, you know, I put my pantyhose on just like you do, one leg at a time, okay? So you know, guys, when you're getting ready to make calls and you get that stomach feeling, and basically it's being intimidated or being afraid that you're going to get a no. Learn to recognize that stomach feeling and go, oh, there you are. Zig Ziglar would always say that you will be afraid until you learn to look up to or down upon no person. From the lady cleaning the bathroom to the Queen of England, that's how I see everyone as the same. I want you to remember, guys, that you're the expert. You're the expert in skincare and makeup, and you have more experience and knowledge and more expertise in the process that we probably ever have in your area. And if you don't feel confident about that, find someone who's a strong seller and go shadow them. It's amazing what that'll do for your confidence. But I finally had to write down Eleanor Roosevelt's quote on my desk that said, "You wouldn't worry so much what other people think about you if you realized they don't." Trust me, they're thinking about them, and so are the guests at your party. You give a woman a mirror, and trust me, she's not looking at you, she's looking at her. So remember, people are people and equalize them. But probably the biggest thing that made an impact on me being able to overcome my low self-esteem was I heard another national sales director say, "Think what you're thinking about." And I thought, well, what does that mean? Like, yeah, what am I thinking about? But how do I figure out what I'm thinking about? So I started trying to catch myself anytime I hesitated or had a bad feeling in my stomach or felt maximized. Now, you guys, we say maximize as another word for overwhelmed. Do not say overwhelmed. You say, I'm overwhelmed, you get more overwhelmed saying, I'm overwhelmed. Say, I maximize, okay? So when you start feeling that feeling, start thinking, yeah, what was the thought that preceded that stomach feeling or that overwhelmed, that maximized feeling? What's causing that feeling? And I started writing down my negative thoughts. And I tell you what, guys, when you start reading back your own negative thoughts on paper, when you start reading them back to you, I was almost ashamed that the way I was talking to myself is the way I would never talk to someone else. And I realized, you know, I am in charge of my own thoughts, and that I'd have to pursue thinking what I wanted to be thinking. Like I was going to have to be in charge of that. And so I found Pastor Stephen Furtick's 12 audacious faith statements. They really resonated with me. And I plastered them all over my house. I put them in my shower, I put them in my office, I put them on my phone and my car. They were written all over the place, but they were also written, they became written on my heart. And so if I caught myself thinking, I'm overwhelmed or I'm maximized, I would think, no, I am completely whole. Physically, mentally, emotionally. If I was thinking, I don't want to do this, what if she says no? No, I have no fear or anxiety. I trust in the Lord with all my heart. I'm afraid to introduce myself. No, I have no insecurity because I see myself the way God sees me. I'm not sure if I measure up or we're getting down to the wire and I just don't see it. No, I am fully resourced to do everything God has called me to do. This is hard. No, I have the wisdom of the Lord concerning every decision that I make. What if I do all this work and it doesn't happen? No, I am able to fulfill the calling God has placed on my life. My kids, I don't want to be gone from my kids. No, I'm a godly parent. My family is blessed. I had an answer for everything, like a whack-a-mole, you know, like okay? But I had to pursue it. I had to pursue those thoughts of truth as if I was training for a marathon. You don't have to believe everything you think. A year ago, I attended my nephew's high school graduation from Trinity High School in Louisville, and the Archbishop of Louisville gave a homily, and one thing he said really struck me. He said, every day we're given a choice. See yourself not as a victim, but as a witness. We all know what a victim is, but as it relates to thoughts, I think of a victim as one that sits idly by, just allowing the thoughts to happen. But when it comes to choosing our thoughts and choosing our own self-esteem, you are no victim. And that's what the enemy wants you to believe, that you're a victim to your thoughts. I'm telling you, if I could reach for this microphone and grab each of you one by one, face to face, and get in your face and tell you with eyes of love that you are made in God's image with the mind of Christ. And Jesus told his disciples that all power had been given to him. And if all power was given to Jesus, how much power does Satan have? None! Exactly. When you truly let that sink in, you will realize that you control your beliefs, you control your self-esteem, and you have responsibility for what you're thinking. And then I looked up the definition for witness. And we all know that a witness could be, an observer, to give a testimony. But did you know that witness also means evidence or proof? See yourself not as a victim, but as a witness. See yourself not as a victim. I'm not good enough to become a director, but as proof, God knows my name, and my sufficiency is from God. See yourself not as a victim. I'm never going to get there, but as proof, God equips those he calls. See yourself not as a victim. I'm not worthy of success, but as proof that I am created for great works. See yourself not as a victim. I feel stupid and stutter and look like a failure, but as proof that I am God's workmanship, created for great works, and I can do all things through Christ. See yourself not as a victim. The way life is today is the way that life will always look, but as proof, I will reap a harvest if I do not give up. You don't have to believe everything you think, but you do get to think everything you believe. And what you believe about yourself and what is possible for your life is totally up to you. Will you be a victim or a witness? Will you be a victim or will you be the proof? I was the proof. And you can be too. Thank you so much. God bless you.